We're joined today by Mark Hunter. He has a great book, A Mind for Sales, and then also he's known as the Sales Hunter. I've been following Mark for many, many years, 25 years now. So I've always been in awe of Mark, and his expert in the sales world is just second to none. So we're so happy to have you, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great.
Mark, just to get started, the whole theme of SEG Sales Summit is vulnerability, exceed, and be extraordinary. I truly believe all the speakers we've had in the Sales Summit, the reason they are, in my eyes and most people's eyes, extraordinary is because they go back and say, look, there's things that's happened throughout my life, and here's one or two things that it's vulnerability. I faced adversity, right? And it made I am today. It allows me to train others, coach others, be the best you to help other people. And I'd love for you, if you don't mind, just to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think when we talk about being vulnerable, my first two sales jobs, I got fired from. I got fired from my first two sales jobs. And it was purely because I was vulnerable in that I was approaching sales totally wrong. I was approaching sales as if it was a transaction, which, gee, isn't that what we've all been taught? Sales is a transaction. But really worse than that, I was really viewing customers as if they were bowling pins, just to be knocked down. My objective is just to knock you down and take your money and move on. And it wasn't until I was on my third sales job. And I seriously thought I was going to get fired from that one too. I mean, I really thought when my boss called me in, I thought I was getting fired. And he sat me down and he hit me over the head, really drove home as to why I'm in sales. And you're in sales to help customers. And he didn't come up with the definition of it. I did years later, but definition of sales is to help others see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. And we do that by taking the time to listen. We take the time by connecting with them. We take the time to really understand where they're at. And that was a real vulnerable piece, because now I had to go out and learn kind of a completely different way to sell, completely different. But clearly the way I'd been doing it before, it may have been earning me commissions, but it wasn't allowing me to keep a job because I was creating so much ill will with everybody. But when I allowed myself to be vulnerable, hear what my boss was telling me, and began to shift, that's what really shifted my whole view about sales. It is not treating you as a bowling pin. It is treating you as I'm trying to help get you to a better location.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I have found like curiosity and how can I help you, and become that trusted advisor. People really start to open up and say, okay, Mark's no longer a salesperson. He's just trying to help me get to my goals. And sometimes maybe you don't even charge for that. Right. So that's where you
let me build on that, because we've all heard those phrases before. Be the trusted advisor. We've all heard those phrases. But here's what it comes down to. In fact, it was funny. I shared this with some really powerful salespeople who, if I said their names, you might recognize them. And they said they disagree with me. And I said, no, I firmly believe it's when we demonstrate a passion towards helping people. When we demonstrate a passion towards, now, some people take this wrong because they say, oh, if you're so passionate about helping people, you're going to give away the farm. No, I'm not giving away the farm. I'm not giving away the farm at all. But I'm passionate about helping people. And when we truly are passionate about helping people, that comes through. It comes through in our communication, comes through in our dialogue. It comes through in who we are. And it moves the sales relationship to a completely different level.
Yeah, but I know that's true about you. I remember contacting you a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, Brian, how can I help? And that was the first words out of your mouth. It was like this conversation where I was nervous to approach you to ask you, because I know you, I don't know you extremely well. And your first words out of your mouth were, Brian, I just want to know, how can I help? And it resonated right away. I felt very comfortable. And, Mark, this is what I'm looking for. Here's how I need help. And you're like, great, let's do it. And it was like, after that, we just kept talking for an hour.
See, Isn't that amazing how that changed the tonality of the conversation and changed everything? And what did it do? It put us both into a listening mode. And again, this is what so many times what happens is when we're dealing with customers and they begin to understand that we're committed to them. We are genuinely committed to them. We've now have the ability to ask them questions that they don't have the answer to and I don't have the answer to. But collectively, we're going to figure out a better solution. To me, that's what sales is.
Yep.
I want to create solutions that nobody had thought of before.
Yeah, I love it. It's like the best sales calls. It's almost when you're brainstorming together and the person stops and says, Mark, you're a genius. And you're like, I don't know. I asked you a lot of questions and I think you came to the conclusion alongside me. I don't know if I told you any of that. Right.
See, now, isn't that powerful? Because here's what happens. See, we become known not by the facts we share. We become known by the questions we ask. I mean, I firmly believe this. And we as salespeople, see, if you think about it, everything you ever want to know is out on the internet. It's all out there on the internet. Yeah. Our job as salespeople is to really help customers declutter. And we declutter not by telling them more information. We declutter by asking them questions, by really helping them know what they don't know. And that's really what the role of salespeople is all about. The era of presentations gone.
But and also, I think you're talking about like mentors and coaches. I've been in a couple different CEO groups, one Vistage, and now I'm in something for the last 3-4 years called Convene. And when people go to the group, they're like, "Wow, the person that leads the group, that person's amazing." And I always laugh and say, "Well, because the person's the best facilitator I've ever met, asking good questions, getting the group talking, coming to good answers." And even the best facilitators will say, "Stop. We're trying to get to outcomes. Let's ask more questions." And I've always found that amazing, right? But we think, wow, this person's brilliant. They're brilliant because they ask a lot of great questions to help us get the answers.
That is so, think about great leaders that you've been around. And over the years, I've had a number of bosses. And in fact, I'm thinking of, I was in a meeting recently. Yes, it was actually a live meeting. There was about 15 of us. And it was the senior team of a corporation. And the president CEO was in the meeting. And it was amazing how little he spoke. It was just amazing. But when he spoke, believe me, it was a powerful question or it was a powerful comment. Yeah. Was he absorbing everything coming in? You bet he was. And there were several times that he just chimed in with something. And it was like, wow. And he didn't earn his stripes by sitting there yakking up a storm. No, he by making himself available to listen and just listen and listen and listen. And I think that's the mark. And see, that's the mark of a great salesperson. The mark of a great salesperson isn't to do all the talking. No, just ask a few really good questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Mark, when you look at coaching people and mentoring people, over the last decade, and what do you look at like the best ways to do that, or the best practices you can share with how you help people get to their goals?
Yeah, the best practices, first of all, is to get clarity around your goals. So many people think they have goals, but they don't they just have dreams and aspirations. You got to get clarity around the goals. You really get precise and then get the plan to do that. But you have to have that burning passion to achieve the goals. One of the things that I talk about, and I talk about in my book, and that is you got to review your goals regularly. I mean, every week, every day, you got to be looking at it. I look at my goals every other day. I spend about 5 or 10 minutes looking at my goals for that quarter and for that year. You have to have not just annual goals, but I talk in my book, 25-year goals, 25-year goals that are both personal and professional. Because again, our goals are we're going to drive our actions. And then when it comes down, when I'm coaching people, in fact, just got done with a coaching session this morning with a person, and I said, your time has to be allocated around two buckets: R and G. R and G. R is revenue producing, and G is goal driven. And if the activity you're doing is not helping you create revenue or moving you closer to achieving your goal, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And stop and ask yourself, how much time do we waste every day doing all kinds of other stuff that really isn't revenue producing? Don't kid yourself. It's not revenue producing, or it's not working towards my goal. Get focused.
Yeah, it's so true. It's funny you say that, because I have this like one page where every day I list out the 6 priorities that day. It's called the Ivy Lee Life Impact List. And just what you said, Brian, it's great you have 22 things you want to do today, but I would pick 5 or 6 every day and just do that. And
here's a question I love asking people. And I ask myself this question. Now I get up at 4:30 every morning. Okay, I know that's rude. I know that's shocking, but that just works for me. Okay. Anyway, I get up 4:30 in the morning, and I've got a set routine that I do in the morning. Boom, boom, boom. But here's what I'm getting to, and you can ask and anybody can ask themselves this question. At 10 a.m. every morning, you want to ask yourself this question: have I brought enough value to my company today that if I quit, that if I stopped working the rest of the day, I could call it a good day? Because what I want to do is I want to start the day so strong, so powerful, that by 10 a.m. I say, hey, you know what? I've nailed it. I have nailed it, because I've been zeroed in on my number one priority. What's that one thing I got to get done? I have to get done, and I've gotten it done. And if you can begin, because top performing people, and I don't care whether they're in sales, I don't care what they are, they don't evaluate themselves based on the week. They don't evaluate themselves on month. They base themselves on time chunks. And again, one of the things I talk about in my book is what I call the 2x4. You don't take a 2x4 to your head, but you break your day into 4 2-hour segments. And you hold yourself accountable for each 2-hour segment. What did I get done? What's my goal? What's my objective? And you hold yourself accountable. Here's what I find. The salespeople that can hold themselves accountable. In other words, they set time on their calendar, they set commitments on their calendar, and they honor that. These are meetings. I have meetings with myself. I have meetings with myself to get this done.
Yeah.
What I find is that the salespeople who honor those commitments to themselves are the ones who also honor their commitments to their customers.
Yeah.
Because if you can't honor yourself, how will you ever honor your customer?
Yeah, absolutely. And, also probably it's the same people that hold commitments to their family, to their workouts. It's not just professionally. I'm sure that's personally too. I'd love your feedback on that, because I'm sure that has something to do with it too, just in general.
Huge. I mean, within 10 minutes after I'm up in the morning, I'm working out.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what is? That's my commitment to myself. And there's just something about that. I do about an 8-minute workout, pretty strenuous workout, that just gets me going.
Yep.
And so literally before 5 a.m. in the morning, I've had a good 8-minute workout. It's part one of my workout routine. And then I can shift gears and I can begin doing some reading. I begin digging into some other things. But again, it's a very regimented process. But man, it's a commitment to myself, and it works personally and professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember asking someone 4 or 5 years ago, they were a sales professional, a really good one too. Really great salesperson. And I remember asking the person, like, what are you doing tonight? They threw their hands up and said, I still have like 20 tasks to do and all these emails, and, I'm going to be up all night. And I was doing for this company. And I said, well, pull out, your computer and let's go through the emails you're talking about. And we started going through the A, B, and C emails. And I'm like, well, I think you have about maybe 15, 20 minutes here max. You really only have 3 or 4 emails that you really have to answer. But my guess is you're going to go through every single one of them. And then you're probably not going to have dinner with your family. you're probably going to be upset going into tomorrow because you're already like, God, I'm working too much. I would say, let's answer these 3 and move on. And he stopped and he paused and he said, what have I been doing? So
You just nailed it right there. But see, we have this obsession with being busy. We have this obsession with being busy, that we have to be busy to really be successful. So as a result, you're right. We allow email to consume ourselves. We totally allow email to consume ourselves. And no, it's. I mean, I'm gonna respond to the key emails, and I'm gonna get rid of the rest. And for instance, one of the things that this drives me crazy, I keep right now there are 21 emails in my email, and I have it up right now. Okay, and but by tonight, or by actually, I'm going to need probably about 20 minutes to go through it. I'll have it down to maybe 4 or 5. Yep. And those 4 or 5 are just because there's information regarding appointments for tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. But this whole thing, because I don't allow other stuff to clutter. I see so many people where they have hundreds of emails. And so what do? They become a victim to email because they can't find stuff. It's gone. It's dealt with and it's gone. I stay up on it. Now it requires discipline. Just like I said, 10 minutes after I'm up in the morning, I'm working out. And it's purely an aerobic workout to get the blood and everything moving.
Yep. Mark, your book, A Mind for Sales. I know there's a lot of great content. I wish we had 3-4 hours today, right, to review it. But if you had to go through and pick the 1 or 2 key areas in the book that Brian, and hopefully everybody goes out after this and picks up the book. I know it's a great book. What would you just basically break it down and say, look, this is the number 1 takeaway that I think, or maybe it's the top 2 that I really think people should focus on to, be extraordinary, take the next steps in their, maybe it's not even just their sales career, it's just their career period.
Yeah. I think right up front where it really talks about what you do Sunday night to set up for the week. Those activities, it's setting the week up to get Monday off to a fast start. And those 5 things you do on Sunday night, 5 things you do on Monday morning. And those are absolutely, you can repeat those every day over the course of the week. But that is without a doubt, because what I found is if I can get my week off fast, it's amazing how much more successful I am. The second part of the book that I talk about is really who you're surrounding yourself with. And I got a number of chapters in there about your network, your peer group, your mastermind group, et cetera. But I can't stress this enough. We become the sum of the people who we associate with the most. We really do. Pick your friend. Mom always used to say, pick your friends wisely. And yeah, it really does make a difference. So you got to really say who is the peer set, because the peer set that you run with is who you become like. And then at the end of the book, I have a whole series of things that you really need to focus in on in terms of really looking at how you set and evaluate your performance. And it's a whole series of things. It's what the top performers do every day. And I walk you through and this, and the idea is not that you're going to run out and do all 17 of them. There's 17 in there, but you're going to focus in on one and you're going to drill it, because this is the other piece that salespeople are so guilty. Squirrel. They get caught up in right. They get caught up in different things, and you have to be very focused. So I say, just take one and become absolutely zeroed in, very, very good on that. The example I use is, I still believe to this day, Michael Jordan is the best basketball player that's never played the game. Okay. Yep. Michael Jordan is a phenomenal basketball player. Michael Jordan cannot swim. He cannot swim. He doesn't waste his time trying to figure out how to swim. He knows his game is basketball. And of course now it's golf, but that's where, see, focus in on what you do and do it best, but be singular about it. Be singular about it. And that's how you get to be a top performer.
So I live in Chicago, right? So of course I watch Last Dance. Even though I'm a Pistons fan, I still would agree with you. Michael Jordan's the best player to ever play. Completely agree with you.
Number 23 and number 45. And man, when he came back and switched his jersey number, it cost every dad a fortune because they had to buy their kids new jerseys.
Yep, absolutely. And the part of the show that resonated the most with me was after he had won 3 rings and he came back from baseball and had a little layoff, and his body wasn't quite right in the playoffs because he was still getting himself back in basketball shape, and he lost to Shaq and Anthony Hardaway. And Jordan used to take 6 weeks to 2 months off so he could go through recovery for his body before he started training for the next season. And the part that resonated with me, here's a guy that has 3 rings, clearly, even at that point, probably the best basketball player to ever play. And his trainer came to him after the game and said, "Hey, Michael, I'll see you in 6 weeks." And I don't know if you remember this part of The Last Dance. He stopped and he said, "No, I'll see you tomorrow morning. My training starts tomorrow." He had very little to prove, and he was already, getting himself ready. And he grabbed the whole team and said, "We're starting tomorrow. We're not waiting." And I remember getting goosebumps. I mean, this is the best player in the world, 3 rings. It wasn't like he was trying to get his first ring. He was just, and I'm laser focused, and let's go together as a team. And we're going to win more rings. And of course, you know how it ends. They win 3 more rings, right? So
yeah, and you stop and ask yourself, the same thing can be applied to Tom Brady. Now, there's another quarterback who played the game who I liked, Brett Favre. Great quarterback, nothing against him. But did he have that same passion and work ethic that Tom Brady did? No. Brett Favre was known as that fun-loving guy who just, hey, season's over, I'll see you in August. And he was the gunslinger. He was the, and great quarterback. Nothing. I'm not dissing him at all. I'm not dissing him at all. But then you have Tom Brady, who is literally so lasered in focused. And hey, he could have walked away several years ago. He's still playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, nothing. The only thing he has to prove is to himself.
Yeah.
But that's the level of commitment. That's the level of, if you look at the people who excel, and they're passionately committed to achieving their goals. Yep. And they do not allow obstacles to stand in their way. When I was going to come out with my book has been out just right at a year now. It was coming out the end of March last year, right at the start of the pandemic. A lot of people said, don't launch it. Don't launch it. Wait till after the pandemic's over. I said, no, I've made a plan. I've worked my plan. This pandemic is not going to stop me. We had to wiggle and shift a few things, but we did it. And we executed the book, A Mind for Sales, and it launched beautifully. And, don't average salespeople allow obstacles to become barriers to success.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just in general with not just salespeople, right? I love what you said about who you surround yourself with is who you're going to be. I remember doing a gut check. I don't know, it wasn't that long ago. And I started looking at a person that every time I talked to him, it was negative, and we can't do this and we can't do that. And there was always 3 reasons why. And I remember my wife said, "Brian, why do you keep talking to that person like every other day? I'm not saying you should break your friendship. You should do that. But you're not the person that says, I can't. I only know the person that says, I can. But I'm starting to hear it in your vocabulary a little bit. It's kind of scaring me a little bit." And I remember it like hit me, and I'm like, still friends today. I just don't want to talk for a half hour about what we can't do. I want to talk about what we can do. And I want those people in my life that are going to lift me up and take me to the next level. Another story, I remember my first year, a couple years of sales, there was this person at ADP. I worked at ADP. I'll just say his name on here, Josh Zacharias. I'd walk in the office, and he was always the first one in the office. He'd come tap on my desk and say, "Look, I'll bet you lunch by noon I set 2 more meetings than you. You ready to roll?" He made me in that first 2 years in sales, up by, I was towards the top of the leaderboard. And if I really look back on it, it was because of him, because he pushed me every day. And that's who you want to surround yourself with. Doesn't matter if it's business, professionally, personally, it's, you want to surround yourself with people. And I heavily recommend to read your book, right? And read about that, because if you can accomplish that with people that are going to lift you to a new level, life's just going to be in general.
It's going to be totally different because, see, we all live in an echo chamber. We all live in an echo chamber. And who's in your echo chamber?
Hey, Mark, what is like the number one, if you had to look at sales, what's the number one thing that sales professionals struggle with?
The number one thing is, without a doubt, prospecting. This is what, and it's the reason I wrote the book High Profit Prospecting and A Mind for Sales. And here's what it comes down to: people are absolutely afraid of rejection. They're afraid of rejection, and I'm going to walk you through just a couple quick pieces here, but it really comes down to your own mindset. What is your own mind? And here's what I want you to do: anybody who is having an issue with prospecting, I want you to take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side, write down your customers. On the right-hand side, write down all of the outcomes you've created for them. Not what you sold them, the outcomes.
Yeah.
And then you give yourself a big hug. You go, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. Yeah. Now, here's the whole thing. You look at that list and you say, okay, who's my ideal customer? See, one of the challenges with prospecting is many times we're sitting here prospecting people who have no clue. I want to keep my list very, very tight, very precise. And when I do this, two things happen. I become more confident. I become far more confident. And B, here's what it comes down to. If I have the ability to help someone, see, if I know this is the persona, type of person I can help. So I know I can help that person. If I know I can help them, I have an obligation to reach out to them. And if I don't, I'm doing them a disservice. I'm actually doing them a disservice. And the prospecting process is really quite easy. It's not ABC, always be closing. It's ABV. ABV, always bring value. Every message, every attempt, I just bring new value. And the last piece I'll just add with this is you have to look at prospecting as a muscle. Prospecting is, too many people, what they do is they sit, well, I only prospect when I don't have enough customers. So I get into prospecting mode every couple months. I go, stupid. That's like having a membership to the gym, but never going. You see, the prospecting is a muscle. And what you do is you just routinely do X number of calls every day. And calls. It's amazing. The telephone works. It's a beautiful tool, especially when you combine it with email, social media, and everything else. But prospecting is best done daily, kind of like taking a shower, which is the final piece, because in every bottle of shampoo, there are 3 words critical to sales: rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. And that's what sales is all about. Rinse, it's a new message. Repeat. New message, repeat. New message, repeat. Yeah. Sale. Hey, if you don't have deals to close, it's because you're not prospecting. So don't blame me if you don't have enough deals to close.
Yeah.
I will get off that soapbox.
Well, no, that's an awesome point. And another thing you said was confidence. Think about it. If you're doing it every day and you have a good pipeline, you've had a lot of good conversations during the week, your confidence stays high. But to your point, you see it all the time. Someone starts struggling and then they haven't prospected in 2 months. And then they're like, now I have to go get meetings and I have to build pipeline. And then that comes across on the phone. Because at that point now, it turns into like almost like desperation. Like, I have to get a meeting, where people can hear it on the phone when it's, I have to get a meeting. Where I love your tip about, if you do it every day for 2 hours, and let's just say you have too big of a pipeline, right? Just because you're doing it maybe a little bit more than you need to. What is wrong with that for your confidence?
That's a great problem to have. That is a great problem. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what that does is it allows you to be far more selective. And you know what's funny? One of the big reasons why people cut their prices to close a deal is because they're scared it's the only deal they're ever going to get. So you know what? When you have a full pipeline, it's amazing how much more revenue you're making, because you're getting more money on every transaction, period. Boom. Sales is not it. All I'm having is a conversation. And don't worry about being rejected. Who cares? You don't have a clue as to what's going on in that person's life when you call. You call and they jump all. You have no clue what's going on in their life beforehand. I equate it to the thing that you're driving your car, you're driving through an intersection, light's green, and a car runs a red light and hits you. It's just, you know
You
what?
know,
It just happens.
it's so true when we're going through trainings with new sales professionals and BDRs and SDRs. I'm like, look, here's the cool thing about being in sales, that we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. And at the end of the day, do you think a doctor, when they get a utensil, if they cut wrong, it's a bad thing? It's terrible. But as salespeople, we can get on a phone call, we can be on a prospect call. I still do it today, 27 years later, and I walk out of about every sales call. This is the vulnerability part of me, right? Going, God, I could have done that better. I should have asked more questions, or why didn't I do this? And guess what? The good news is tomorrow, you're back over, and it's okay if you mess up a little bit in sales. You're constantly learning, constantly getting better, and you will probably you never will be a perfect salesperson. That's great sales, but I always remind people the first couple years, because that's usually when you screw up a lot. You're learning the job, right? You're making 70 calls
Yeah.
a day. You're going back and critiquing yourself. I love your thing about the daily goals, weekly goals, and probably every week you look back and say, this is what I should have done different.
No,
It's okay. So you can make
I,
changes along the way.
I see it all the time. Sales success is not a destination, it's a journey. And every day we're just keep getting better.
And, I always try to tell people too, like, when I started in sales 25 years ago, 27 years ago, whatever it's been, is that we don't have the power today that we have with this. Is now you can look up people on LinkedIn and go to their articles, go to their summary, about them, where do they go to college, what's important to them. And it's so much easier because you can call people today and say, hey, Joe, boiler up. I'm from Indiana. And, yeah, you think Drew Brees is going to retire? Who's this? Oh, this is Tony from Sales Empowerment Group. Yeah, I think Brees is going to stick around. Well, great. I'll get to why I was calling today. I'm here to help. And then you get into your pitch, right? Or asking good questions.
Right. Right.
But the nice thing about today is you actually have the ability to have meaningful conversations pretty quickly, because you can get people laughing. You can do research.
Right.
You have the ability, before you ever call them, to get to know them a little bit.
See, and because of that, prospecting is actually easier today than it's ever been before.
Yep.
And people yell and scream and argue with me on that one. And I go, no, I
Yeah.
think it's easier because everybody's got a footprint on the internet. Everybody has a footprint.
Yep. Well, and think about the multi-touch model today, Mark, from when we started in sales. We had the yellow
Yes.
pages, or we go flip
Yes.
canvas. That's what you have. Now you can send a customized email, connect with the person on LinkedIn. You can like one of their posts and comment to it. Call them the next day and say, hey, I read that, right? And you can go back and forth with these different touches, and you can connect, collaborate, and communicate at a whole different level than we could 20 years ago.
I used to run a pipe, pump, and valve facility. Okay. This was a distribution center, and we had salespeople. And we were excited when we got a whole group of new phone books in from other cities around the country. That was our prospect. I mean, we had a whole shelf. I mean, it was probably 5 feet high by probably 20 feet long, virtually every phone book in the country. And we got them all, and we loved it. That was our, and when we would get new phone books, wow, man, sales team would go crazy. That was the extent of our knowledge back then.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we've come a long ways.
Yeah. Technology has changed it. And, I think also the way the generation today communicates compared to the way we used to is it's game changing. And it's just great to see. Right. So.
Yes, it is. It is. I think that's what makes sales fun. The role of the salesperson will never be obsolete. Don't ever think if you're the transactional salesperson, you're toast. You're gone. Internet can replace you. But as long as you're bringing questions, as long as you're bringing insights and helping the customer know what they don't know, always be a place for you.
Yeah. And also what I really like is over the past 10 years, the BDR SDR role, because what I'm really seeing is they're really appreciated in the sales funnel. And, account executives or senior level salespeople, 20, 25, 30 years of experience are saying, wow, this is pretty cool. I like this new movement of BDRs, SDRs, because together we can accomplish a lot of things together. And let's face it, the BDR, SDR really appreciates them because there's a lot of tribal knowledge there that they learn the industry. Hey, I set up that meeting as a BDR. I dialed into the call. Joe, I heard you talk for 90 minutes. It was awesome. We're going to proposal stage. Can you coach me more about what you meant that 30 minutes about the product? And I'm loving this movement because I felt like it used to be separated. And now
Right.
it's like coming together and it's like glue. And I just feel like this movement is the best thing for sales that's ever happened.
Well, that's why I always say sales is not a solo activity. Sales is the team sport. And the only question you have to ask is who is on your sales team?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan did not win the championships he did without Scottie Pippen.
Yep.
You think about that. What has made Tom Brady such a great Super Bowl winning, person? Rob Gronkowski. Without a doubt. Yeah. Everybody has a team player. Everybody has to be part of a team.
Well, look at the game they won against Seattle. I would actually say defense won the game.
Without a doubt, defense. Now, as a person who grew up in Seattle, that's a game we don't want to talk about, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I'll go with Mahomes. He was like,
there you go.
I can't get a pass off. How can I win the game and pass the ball? You talk about the team part. Everyone's talking about Brady and the offense and how resilient they are. I'm like, do you know how many games that defense won? Like, they didn't stand a chance to beat the offense. Even if they wanted to, they were, so it is such a game. So.
That's good.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate and your vulnerability. It's definitely what's made you extraordinary on how you coach and you help other people. And, at the end of the day, it's just, we've learned a lot from you today. And if you take this stuff and you apply it, it's really going to help people, just not just professionally, personally, everything. So thank you.
You bet. Hey, jump out to my website, thesaleshunter.com, and of course the book, A Mind for Sales.
Thanks, Mark.